7 attributes of highly feminine women.
Feminine is not about having perfectly
feminine, high status
Forging feminine character looks.
If you've spent a second on the internet, you have probably stumbled across a femininity coach. This is a woman who signals herself as some sort of authority in the dating arena. She's capable of providing unique insights to rectify your courting dilemmas. While male dating coaches spend a majority of their time bullying, insulting, and demeaning women in front of their male audience, the female dating coaches take a different approach. Some of their recommendations are harmless etiquette and grooming advice. Others are reinvented gender roles from the 1950s, intended to stifle any form of creativity, personality, agency, and self-confidence in their female listeners. Whenever I stumble across these coaches, I think to myself, their entire business model falls apart if they admit the open secret. Some women, and dare I say a sizable portion of women, will never marry to no fault of their own. Online femininity advice is predicated on the notion that you will find a romantic partner if you act in a certain way. And not just any type of partner, a high-value man, a high-earning, kind, and charismatic figure that will fulfill the role of protector and provider. These coaches give women tips on presenting, decorating, and applying themselves to gain male attention. This conformity requires that you alter all aspects of yourself until you become the idyllic partner. Any objection on your end means that you are not ready to make the necessary sacrifices required to be chosen. Hence, it is justified that you are sentenced to the purgatory called singledom. Whenever I hear this type of femininity advice, I actually hear women say, "Treat me kindly. I see how badly you treat the women you do not want to have sex with, and I do not want that treatment." We forget that the way a man treats us has far more to do with his character and what you're willing to accept than how you dress. We ignore that the quintessential 1950s domestic doyen was miserable and stifled by the social norms of that era and would be perplexed by the freedom women have today. Lastly, we forget that we are meant to be doing the picking. We are the ones with the divine providence to determine which man's genes make it to the next generation. However, the more significant problem is that their advice fails to account for the fact that there are not enough capable young men seeking intimate partnership. In developed societies such as Japan, fewer people are getting married.
The institution of marriage has suffered a decline across the world, but it is here in the aging societies of Asia where it's got governments and families most worried. Despite efforts to cajole people towards taking the leap, fewer of them do.
The opposite also does not happen in more conservative cultures. Take Russia, for example. Although it prides itself in being the pinnacle of Orthodox Christian values, it has suffered a population and marriage decline over the past few decades. None of the femininity coaches talk about how the male spaces on the internet are not discussing how to become the better protector and provider that women want. Instead, they are preoccupied with new ways to dominate, embarrass, and humiliate women. The problem with modern men is that they are broke, porn sick, erectile dysfunction, balding, uneducated, jobless, and way too opinionated. How does the hypergamy advice stand up against the increasing number of men in the West underperforming in school?
But what I do know is that the crisis amongst men in America today is leading some really bad outcomes for our society, and it's beginning to show itself everywhere in American life.
How does the advice about finding a high-value man stand against the unprecedented number of men that grew up with porn on tap, that have developed maladaptive sexual fantasies from it? How do you reconcile the fact that men are the providers with automation eliminating many physical labor jobs that men primarily occupy? You cannot preach the importance of being a stay-at-home mom in the domestic department while ignoring that even two-parent households struggle in this economy. You cannot preach about child rearing while ignoring the lifetime earning losses that women make when they start having children. None of these cultural trends seem to be stopping anytime soon. I say all this to underscore how the social, economic, and financial contracts that shaped marriage in society no longer exist, and we must adjust to the new reality. Lastly, contrary to these women's unoriginal ideas, No man is meant to lead you. It is weird hearing women who have built multi-million-dollar businesses telling other women that men have some divine providence to lead them. In reality, the only reason men have held the reins of political power over the past century is their willingness to wield violence against women and children. In the modern era, guns, drones, nukes, and other forms of warfare are gender neutral. In the words of Mexican feminist icon Juana Inés de la Cruz, God would not have given us brains if He did not intend for us to use them. To summarize, online femininity advice is bad not only because it makes women play the game of love like losers, but also because it doesn't work with the current socioeconomic realities. Since the femininity coaches do not offer any form of life affirming advice, I will provide some. From my studies of some of history's most famous women, this is what I have learned. First and foremost, your greatest moral and ethical obligation is to live a fulfilling life.
The past few years have brought enormous change to Ross's life. Her only marriage of 7 years ended in 1978 to Bob Silverstein, publicist and manager, father of their 3 children. They're still close, and they insist that color had nothing to do with their problem. Diana packed up the kids and moved from California to New York. Then this year, she broke with Motown Records, the people who'd guided and controlled her career for 20 years. So at 37, Ross started life all over again. You can hear it in her songs.
I've got to show the world all that I want to be, all my abilities. There's so much more to me. Somehow I'll have to make them up. Just understand, I got it well in hand. Oh, how I plan.
She's made a clean sweep, put a new manager on her payroll. For the first time, she produced a TV special. She signed with RCA Records at a reported $15 to $20 million.
Are we ready? Did you get the bass sound like you wanted?
And something totally new. She produced her own album, responsible for everything from music to money.
Did you give him 8 bars of the drum thing? I love that.
She says she trusts her own instincts now more than ever.
It's really important that you know about your business and your affairs, I think.
This task is your primary responsibility and it cannot be outsourced, especially to strangers on the internet. With that in mind, you have to approach all aspects of life with the premise that you have to live, love, and earn on your own terms. This is how some of history's most famous women did so. The Elizabeth Taylors. What do Kim Kardashian, Zaza Gabor, and Joan Collins have in common? They belong to the group of women that are aptly called the Elizabeth Taylors. These women are known for their multiple marriages and divorces from prominent men. These women prioritize their well-being and are unafraid to leave a relationship that does not serve them. They have a deep assurance that life will present something better to them, so they are not worried about leaving any marriage that has run its course.
It's honestly so nice to be here for a gay wedding. I mean, I haven't been to one since my second wedding. I was a little bit confused because I haven't really figured out this marriage thing myself, so I don't know what kind of advice he thinks I'm going to give.
They are unashamed of public ridicule and forgive themselves for their sometimes questionable choices in men. Finally, these women see the big picture and signs of when it's time to exit. Your journey to love might have multiple happy ever afters. In Greek mythology, these women will be descendants of Aphrodite, the goddess of love.
Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right?
The Erykah Badus. Apart from the Elizabeth Taylors, we have the Erykah Badus. In their romantic dealings with men, these women have affairs, dalliances, and relationships, but often do not marry. Even if they marry, they keep their marriage away from the spotlight. These are the women who have a natural zest for life and a deep creative expression. Such women include Coco Chanel, Ray Kawakubo, and Elsa Peretti.
This letter, I think, was really the freedom of a woman this time in Italy. And everybody thinks I got success and freedom. It's not true. I wasn't prepared for that. I belong to my generation.
They have a natural vitality and rebelliousness that makes it difficult for them to truly settle down. They are free-spirited and self-possessed. In Greek mythology, these women would be similar to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Then we have the Jackie Kennedys. These are the women who married their co-collaborators and co-conspirators. They have firm convictions concerning their lives and only marry men that advance that agenda. Even if those men disappoint them, which they often do, the women still win because of their socioeconomic and political advancement. These women often end up outshining their partners, which is unsurprising. They have a cool self-assuredness in their abilities and skills. Their competence allows them to show up and show out in the public arena. Some of these women include Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, Cleopatra, and Carla Bruni. In Greek mythology, they will be represented by Athena, the goddess of war. Finally, there are the women who remain choicefully single. These are the women who focus on their lives solely. They have a natural independence that cannot be confined to marriage. History is littered with women that never marry, but decide to focus their attention on self-prescribed goals. They live uncompromisingly. These women include Shonda Rhimes, Condoleezza Rice, and Tracee Ellis Ross. Historical iterations of such a personality would include Joan of Arc and Florence Nightingale. If you're a successful enough woman, you can date a man half your age to keep your bed warm at night and not incur the financial obligations that come with marriage. Or you might be like Jada Pinkett Smith and require that your union provide you with the space to explore. There are other ideas such as polyamory, but I have yet to meet a man on the face of the planet that deserves the love of more than one woman. I'm trying to say that life becomes more fruitful when you embrace the idea that your life might move in a different direction, and you ruthlessly prioritize your happiness in that journey. However, that will not happen if you stifle yourself with outdated and ineffective advice.